Imagine waking up. Your hands are just violently shaking,
Oh, yeah.
and your chest feels incredibly heavy with like this toxic residue. And the most terrifying object in the room isn't a weapon or an intruder. It's your own cell phone,
Right, just sitting there.
just sitting right there on the nightstand. And that is minute one of what we are looking at today. We are doing a deep dive into Atomic Share's highly anticipated upcoming release, which is called One Day Sober.
Dropping this weekend, right?
Yeah, Sunday, August 30, 2026. And we've got a stack of internal project documents, a fan psychological deep dive, some promotional reaction guides, and internal production notes.
It is a lot of material.
It's a ton. And our mission today is to really unpack the emotional architecture of this track.
Yeah.
Because I gotta say, this isn't your generic, triumphant anthem. It is a radically honest, ground-level look at the exact moment denial breaks, like in the very first 24 hours of recovery.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Starting with how the song even made its way to the front of the release schedule.
Well, it's a crucial starting point because you really can't separate the song from Atomic's current operational reality.
Right.
Like, back in March of 2026, we saw a massive pivot in how his team was handling releases. Historically, the industry standard and what Atomic was previously doing was batching content.
Right. The traditional rollout.
Exactly. You build an album in secret, you polish it for 6 months, and drop it with this heavily manufactured PR narrative. But in March, he launched what he called the Faith Arc expansion.
Yeah, which honestly felt like a massive risk at the time. I mean, you don't just throw away a proven marketing playbook.
You don't unless the playbook is actively suffocating the art.
Wow. Yeah.
The Faith Arc expansion was this structural shift toward real-time sequential storytelling, so it meant releasing tracks as the emotional timeline was actively happening.
Raw and somewhat unfinished.
Exactly. Songs like Empty Me and Narrow Road were already mapped out on this timeline, but One Day Sober suddenly became an urgent, near-term priority. It had to be fast-tracked.
Because it functions as the emotional anchor for, everything he is experiencing right now.
Yes.
And the brilliance of how he communicates that experience, I think, starts with the core illusion of the track.
Yeah.
Which is the title itself.
The paradox of it.
Right, because when you see a song titled One Day Sober, the immediate cultural expectation is a victory lap.
You assume he's made it through the hardest part.
Right, like the chip is in his hand and day one is officially in the bag. But the chorus completely shatters that assumption. He literally sings, "'Cause I ain't one day sober, that's all been pretend. So if it's one day sober, then right now it begins."
Yeah, the title is spoken forward. It's a desperate goal. It's not a past achievement. And what he's doing there is incredibly subversive for a hip-hop track.
How so?
Well, by admitting that era's all been pretend, he is basically taking a sledgehammer to his own public image. He's acknowledging that what he previously sold to the public and to his family as control was just high-functioning denial.
Oh, wow.
And the heaviest part of that chorus hinges on a single word, again.
Because, again, implies a graveyard of previous attempts.
Precisely. Again carries the crushing weight of lost credibility. It means you've made this promise before.
Yeah.
It means your family has heard this promise before and had their hearts broken when it just didn't stick. He's speaking from the recovery threshold at absolute 0 hours.
Which is such a departure from how we usually consume these stories. We are so conditioned to want the narrative resolved.
I want the clean ending.
We want the before and after pictures with a clean line down the middle. Most recovery songs give you that. They sound like someone giving a motivational speech from a podium.
Right.
But this song feels like a shaky cell phone video of someone staring at the starting line, just terrified they don't have the lung capacity to run the race. He is giving the listener permission to relate to the mess before they have a clean ending.
And mechanically, that choice removes the intimidation factor of the forever promise.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when someone is in the depths of a destructive cycle, promising to stop forever is actually a trap. Forever is too massive, it's too abstract.
Yeah.
It's easy to promise forever when you're deeply hungover and feeling guilty, but that promise evaporates by 5 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
One day, that demands immediate, measurable behavior.
Let's talk about the physical reality of that behavior. Because the morning after he describes in the first verse is just harrowing. And the production choices perfectly mirror this grim reality.
They really do.
I was reading through the internal production notes, and they actively avoided any cinematic sweeping orchestral arrangements. Instead, the track is built on this minimal piano, a low sub-drone, vinyl crackle, and a really distant room tone.
Those sonic choices are deeply psychological. A low subdrone in audio engineering is often used to mimic the physiological feeling of anxiety.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it creates a subtle rumble in your chest that you feel before you consciously hear it. It mimics an elevated heart rate. And the vinyl crackle acts like static in the brain. It is the sound of a nervous system that is just completely fried.
That makes so much sense.
Add in the close mic vocal delivery where it sounds like he's whispering so he doesn't wake someone up in the next room, and you are forced into that claustrophobic space with him.
You really are.
Yeah.
And his lyrics begin firmly in the body, bypassing logic entirely. Like, he wakes up to a tremor in his hands and what he calls the memory of poison.
That specific phrasing is fascinating.
It really is.
It signals a massive shift in internal translation. Usually in active addiction, the substance is viewed as medicine. It is the thing you take to stop the pain, to calm the anxiety, to function.
Right, right.
Calling it the memory of poison means denial has finally lost its power to rename the cost. The body is presenting evidence that just cannot be argued with.
Yep.
And immediately, waking up with that shame in his chest, his instinct is avoidance. He zeroes in on two specific physical objects, the bathroom mirror and his phone.
Yeah, okay, I have to stop you there and challenge this focus on the phone.
Right.
Because, honestly, I get the mirror.
Sure.
A mirror forces you to look at your physical deterioration, and that makes total sense for a song about internal physical addiction. But I struggle to see why a cell phone gets so much real estate in these lyrics.
It feels trivial.
Yeah. It feels almost trivial, like a modern distraction from the intense physical withdrawal he's experiencing.
Yeah.
I mean, why focus on text messages when the man is literally shaking in his bed?
Well, it seems trivial until you realize what the phone actually functions as in this scenario. The phone isn't just a piece of technology. It is the sole collision point between his private destructive behavior and the outside reality he's trying to hide from.
Ah.
It is an evidence file. We don't even know what those unread messages say. I mean, they could be furious texts from a partner, disappointment from a manager, or just loved ones asking if he's alive.
Oh, I see. It's Schrodinger's consequence. If you don't open the text message, the fallout hasn't officially happened yet.
That's the exact mechanism. Unread messages are a delay tactic. As long as those notifications sit there unopened, accountability is postponed.
Wow.
The reality of the outside world is aggressively trying to reach him, and choosing not to look at the screen temporarily protects his denial.
But that protection has a very short shelf life. Because once you refuse to look at the consequences, you start generating excuses.
Right.
And that's where he maps out this brutal psychological loop in the second verse. He essentially gives us the anatomy of a relapse.
He maps it with surgical precision. He shows us that a relapse isn't a random event where you just slip and fall. It is a predictable, cyclical engine.
Yeah.
According to the lyrics, it starts with resentment. Resentment feeds distorted thinking, the idea that you are a victim of your circumstances. And that victimhood leads to restlessness, irritability, and discontent.
Which is incredibly uncomfortable, so it triggers the urge to go numb.
Exactly. And the numbing causes immediate consequences. The consequences create shame, and the shame sends you right back into hiding, breeding more resentment, and the engine fires all over again.
He actually names resentment as a worst offender, which is such a mature realization. Resentment is like a permission slip to destroy yourself.
It really is.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Facing that mirror, knowing the phone is full of unread messages, it forces a choice.
Yeah.
And he realizes that stopping might actually be scarier than continuing the cycle.
This is perhaps the most difficult concept for someone outside of addiction to grasp. The logical mind asks, why is stopping so terrifying when the behavior is clearly destroying your life, your health, and your relationships?
Right, it doesn't make logical sense.
But Atomic spells it out plainly. He says, I'm scared of the silence, scared of the truth. I don't know who I'll be when the fog clears out.
When the fog clears out, think about it like a house. Imagine you find out a wall in your living room is completely infested with termites. You know the bugs are destroying the house, but you're absolutely terrified to tear the wall down because you don't know if it's a load-bearing wall.
Right.
What if the whole roof collapses? He is terrified of the identity vacuum. Who is Atomic without the substance, without the excuses, without the constant chaos that has organized his daily life for years?
That analogy perfectly captures the structural fear of sobriety, and it connects directly to what the song exposes as the false bargain of addiction. There is a devastating line that compresses this entire illusion into a few words. He says, I don't want to die slow just to feel okay.
Just to feel okay, not to feel euphoric, not to party.
That's the false bargain.
Yeah.
He is purchasing temporary, mediocre relief with gradual destruction.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging that the substance isn't even providing a high anymore. It's just the toll he has to pay to reach a baseline of functioning.
And he counters that false bargain by asking for a chance at a life where I can stay. Not a life where he constantly escapes, but one where he can actually remain present.
Yeah.
And he arrives at this willingness not through some sudden heroic burst of inner strength, but out of pure, unadulterated exhaustion. The word tired becomes this rhythmic pulse driving the second verse.
It's all over that verse.
He's tired of being sick, tired of excuses, tired of wearing his family down. He says he doesn't want a sermon or a crown. He just wants one morning where he doesn't let himself down.
The way he structures that exhaustion is a brilliant example of a core concept in Atomic's work, which his team internally refers to as elite bars times real scars.
Okay, break that down because I saw that in the project documents, and it sounds like a fascinating creative philosophy.
It is the engine behind his songwriting.
Yeah.
The real scars are the raw materials. You know, the lived emotional state.
The actual experience.
Yeah, it is the physical sickness, the family exhaustion, the damaged self-trust, that deep fear of the identity vacuum we talked about. But raw emotion alone doesn't make a great song. It just makes a diary entry.
Right.
That's where the elite bars come in. The elite bars provide the songwriting architecture, the metaphors, the internal rhymes, the thematic callbacks that organizes this emotional chaos into something a listener can digest.
So the technique isn't just there to show off his pen game. It's load-bearing.
It is entirely load-bearing. For instance, the mirror isn't just a static image of self-hatred. Its meaning dynamically changes through the song. Early on, it's an object of avoidance. Later, the man in the mirror is someone he finally has to listen to.
Huh?
The fog isn't just a lazy metaphor for being drunk. It represents a total loss of identity. The elite bars give the wound a form, and the real scars give that form its truth.
That structural mastery makes the turning point of the song hit so much harder because he realizes his own strength is completely depleted and the fear of the fog clearing is paralyzing. It proves that trying to muscle through this alone is a fundamentally failed strategy.
Yes, it is.
And that thematic realization triggers an incredible musical shift in the production.
It is the shift from isolation to connection, and it happens right at the halftime bridge. Up until this point, as we discussed, the production has been claustrophobic. Close mics, sub-drones, vinyl crackle.
Super dense.
But at the bridge, the atmosphere suddenly opens up. You hear this deep, rhythmic, heartbeat bass drop in, accompanied by a wide, airy choir pad. Sonically, it simulates the exact feeling of stepping out of a private panic attack in a tiny bedroom and walking into a larger room filled with people.
Oh, wow.
He is walking into a meeting.
And you actually hear the introduction of community voices. There's this line, they say, keep coming back when the shame gets louder. I have to ask you about the psychology of that specific line, because society usually conditions us to do the exact opposite. If you mess up, you're supposed to go away, hide, fix yourself in private, and only come back when you can present the fixed, respectable version of yourself to the world.
Right.
Why is this reversal, running toward people when the shame gets louder, so crucial to this 24-hour survival architecture?
Because isolation is the specific environment where the disease of addiction thrives. When you hide, that distorted thinking we talked about earlier becomes the only voice in the room.
Wow.
Your brain will convince you that you are uniquely broken and beyond repair. By telling him to come back when the shame gets louder, the recovery community is actively short-circuiting the relapse loop.
Okay, see.
They are rewiring his response to guilt. Shame is no longer an instruction to disappear. It becomes a trigger for connection.
Which requires an immense amount of humility. And he follows it up with explicit requests for help. He says, start praying for me, and if I fall, help me get up and deal.
It is vital to look at the phrasing there. Asking for help in this context isn't asking someone else to cure him. He's not looking for a savior to do the heavy lifting while he remains passive.
Right, he says, help me get up and deal.
Exactly. Support assists participation. It doesn't replace it. And that leads to the whispered message you hear just after the meeting section. You never have to fight tomorrow. Just today will do.
Just today will do.
Yeah.
Today is small enough to live. That concept is staggering. It scales the impossible down to the manageable.
It really does.
If you think about never drinking or using again for the next 40 years, your brain short circuits. But if you just have to make it until midnight, you can white-knuckle it until midnight.
Absolutely.
And having established these practical tools, the community, the honesty, the hyper-focus on a 24-hour window, the deep dive looks at how this prepares Atomic for whatever comes next.
The outro of the song provides that framing by bringing in the Serenity Prayer. And it's important to view this not just as a religious inclusion, but as a mechanism for psychological triage. It perfectly resolves his internal conflict with control.
How so?
Well, he spent years trying to control the uncontrollable. You know, how people perceive him, the consequences of his actions, his own brain chemistry. The prayer forces a division of energy.
Right.
Accepting what cannot be changed stops the bleeding. Finding courage for what can be changed demands action. And seeking the wisdom to know the difference grounds him entirely in the present moment.
That energy division sets up one of the final lyrics of the track. The past don't vanish, but the future can be different.
Yeah.
That ties so beautifully into Atomic Tree's wider left-to-right movement. For anyone unfamiliar, left-to-right is this philosophical anchor for his current era. Is the idea that a damaged chapter can remain entirely true without becoming the final chapter of the book.
Right.
The ink is dry on yesterday, the damage is done, and the apologies need to be made. But he is taking the pen back for today.
It is a profound shift in authorship. And from a strictly practical standpoint, looking at the promotional strategy, this vulnerability is why the song is going to impact so many people when it drops.
Definitely.
The internal documents talk about listener doorways. It sounds a bit like marketing speak, but the psychology behind it is sound. When listeners hear this track, they aren't going to connect with a flawless hero taking a victory lap. They're going to connect because they know what it feels like to avoid the mirror.
Exactly. When you or I listen to this on Sunday, we are going to connect because we all know the dread of staring at a phone full of unread text messages, paralyzed by the fallout of our own decisions.
Yeah.
We understand the fear of the fog clearing and the sheer exhaustion of trying to hold a false image together.
This song functions as a highly specific tool. It is designed to be the song you text to a family member, a sponsor, or a friend at 2 a.m. when your hands are shaking and you don't have the vocabulary to explain the panic yourself.
Wow.
It invites the listener to participate in that same connection Atomic found in the bridge. It ends with a communal phrase, pulling all of us into the room. This may be the hardest thing any of us have to do. Let's just keep showing up.
Let's just keep showing up.
The achievement isn't perfection.
Yeah.
The achievement is simply participation.
So, what does this all mean? As fans of the genre, we know it is incredibly rare for a hip-hop or melodic rap artist to release something structurally vulnerable to this degree. It's a masterpiece of emotional engineering.
It really is.
Just to recap the journey this track takes us on, we start at 0 hours, waking up to physical tremors and the heavy memory of poison.
Yeah.
We move through the terrified realization that the identity vacuum of sobriety is actually scarier than continuing to use. We hit the absolute physical and mental exhaustion that finally breeds a willingness to change. And then, crucially, we step out of isolation, walk into a community, and find the courage to just survive the next 24 hours.
It strips away all the mythology of recovery and leaves the listener with a sense of unfinished yet incredibly resilient hope. The story is far from over, but it has honestly begun.
A completely honest beginning. And just a reminder for everyone tracking this journey along with us, One Day Sober officially releases this Sunday, August 30, 2026. You can and absolutely should go pre-save it right now at ffm.tunedaysober.
It is genuinely one of those tracks you will want queued up the second it goes live.
Without a doubt. And I want to leave you all with a final thought to mull over as you wait for the release. While One Day Sober is explicitly grounded in Atomic substance recovery, the emotional architecture of this song, living 24 hours at a time and having the courage to face the literal or metaphorical unread messages of our lives, that applies to almost anything.
Absolutely.
We all have destructive cycles. We all have toxic habits, ego-driven behaviors, or relationships that we use to numb our own pain. So ask yourself, what is the fog in your own life that you are absolutely terrified to clear out? And if you stop looking for a clean gold medal finish line, what would your messy, honest day one actually look like? It might just be the bravest thing you ever do.